Kyle Madson in here. We believe we have all the technical difficulties figured out.
We figured it out.
What's up, buddy?
Quick little restart. Very technically advanced move by me.
It's amazing how often the hard reset fixes everything.
There's nothing worse than when I worked in customer service for a video streaming company, and there was nothing worse than when somebody called, and the first step is to restart it. But way too often, 8 out of 10 times, people didn't try that first. And so you'd always have to go, okay, did you restart it? And sometimes they'd be like, oh no, I hadn't tried that. But the people that did try it are like, yeah, I restarted it. That's the first step everybody knows. And it's like,
because essentially what you're asking me is if I'm an idiot or not. That's basically what you just asked me.
That's it. That's what it is. It's like, hey, are you dumb or did you try restarting it? That's the push and pull there.
The crazy thing is I had the same experience when I worked for Comcast. My internet doesn't work or whatever. Just reset the box. Like you said, 80% of the time. That was it.
My internet goes down. I walk up to the router, unplug it, leave it unplugged for 10 seconds, plug it back in. Guess what? That
nailed it.
Yeah. Nailed it. Wish I could do that with days sometimes. Yeah, just like noon, just unplug it and try it again.
Man, you make it to noon. Good for you. I'm usually about 6:45 a.m. It's like, you know what?
Take it back to the Nintendo, hit that reset, blow it to the cartridge, whatever. Right again.
Because you're the only person in America that's like accomplished things by 6:45 a.m.
Right. Sometimes it's a stretch to say I've accomplished things by 6:45 a.m. I'll tell you that.
Accomplished getting the sleep out of my eyes at 6:45 a.m.
You're going to bed at 6:45 a.m. Knock it off. Well, hopefully no reset button has to be hit for the San Francisco 49ers at any point in this game. Thank you very much. They're playing pretty well here. What are you feeling headed in here into this weekend, this divisional round weekend against the Green Bay Packers?
We know the formula, right? Yep. They're going to rush the passer. They're going to run the football, and maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. The question I have is not so much what the 49ers can or can't do. It's what Aaron Rodgers can and can't do. Because if he's going to play like he did in week 3, I have a hard time seeing how San Francisco wins. He was really, really good.
He was good in the first half. They made adjustments in that second half, slowed him down. They didn't stop him. You're not going to stop Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers. Not going to happen. But that's what I think about with this game. I don't look at shut down Rodgers. Like if that's your game plan, you're going to lose.
Right.
Rodgers. But you just want to disrupt them a little bit. Maybe get them out of their comfort zone for 3-4 drives. As opposed to just one drive and the other drives are just doing whatever they want. You just want to make it tough on them. And like my partner talked about earlier, just keep the ball out of his hands as much as possible. Have your offense out there for those 8, 9, 10-minute drives if you can. Like that'd be ideal. Or keep putting points on the board and have him possibly be one-dimensional.
Yeah, that's it. Like can they, if the 49ers in the first half hold the ball for 18 or 19 minutes, you feel really good. But if it's one of those halves where, they're susceptible to this, right? They have the quarter and a half where it's like, man, they have -6 yards. Mm-hmm. They've punted 3 times in 3 possessions and they've run 9 plays. Like that's what they have to avoid, because if they can avoid that, and Kenny, you're right. If they take 6 minutes off the clock, like that's great. Even if they end up with 3 points, but if they're taking a minute and a half off the clock and they're already down 7, and now you're giving Aaron Rodgers the ball back at home, and now your defense has got to go right back on the field, that's where things start to get really dicey. So, yeah, I think it's going to be as ball possession heavy as it can be, even more so than it was against LA and Dallas.
Yeah.
Is that front 7 the most important group in this game again? It felt like they made Dak's life really frustrating, and that contributed to his inability to find CeeDee Lamb. All of the things that we were worried Dak could do, I thought that group, even when Nick Bosa went out and Eric Armstead, Fred Warner, all those guys, they made things really, really difficult for Dak Prescott. You said we know the formula, like that's got to be a big piece of the formula this weekend too.
Yeah, I think so. I think their defensive backs have to be good too, though, because Aaron Rodgers is going to get the ball out. Aaron Rodgers is as good as any quarterback at mitigating a good pass rush. So if he's getting the ball out in a second and a half or 2 seconds and hits the top of his drop and gets it out, that's where the cornerbacks have to make plays. Mm-hmm. And Emmanuel Mosley made a couple plays against the Packers in week 3. Josh Norman started that game. K'Wan Williams started but got hurt, and it was Diamador Lenore in his third week as a pro. So I think having Ambry Thomas playing better, Emmanuel Mosley playing better, and K'Wan Williams hopefully in the lineup and healthy for the whole game, that gives the Niners a chance to, like Kenny said, you're not going to shut down Devontae Adams. You'd like chalk him up for 9 and $120 and a touchdown. Like he's just like, that's kind of what you have to do.
Mm-hmm.
Can you keep Marquez Valdez-Scantling from having 5 for 98 and a touchdown? Can you keep Alan Lazard from having that 60-yard catch? Can you keep Randall Cobb from having 9 catches? Those are the kind of things that I think are going to swing this game, because we know what Devontae Adams is going to do. Can you limit the rest of the Packers offense? And I think that's going to come down to the corners.
Yeah. Do you think the weather plays a factor? And I know that might sound weird, but it seems like this happens all the time, right? Like, oh, it's cold, the conditions, offenses, da-da-da-da, and then the games actually happen, and it's like 24-20, points are scored, balls moved up and down the field. Do you think the weather plays that big of a factor in a game like Saturday night?
No, I don't think so. It might later in the game, especially if it's a lot of A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones for the Packers and a lot of Deebo Samuel and Elijah Mitchell for the Niners. You might see some longer runs get broken later in the game, but no, I think like the Bills Pats game last week, everybody was talking about how cold it was going to be, and then the Bills had like literally the greatest offensive game of all time. So I don't think it's going to be a huge factor unless Jimmy Garoppolo can't grip the football. That's a real concern I have, because I golfed in Sacramento recently, and it was like in the 30s when we teed off, and I couldn't feel my hands, and I was playing casual golf. Like, I can't imagine 1 or negative degrees with a torn ligament trying to play in an NFL game. That's the big question I have as far as weather goes. If Garoppolo can't get a hold of the football well enough to make throws that he needs to make, that's where I think there could be a problem.
We had an in-depth conversation unrelated to the football game about house money and how I've never understood the concept of house money. With all of that said, are the 49ers playing with house money at this point?
Yeah, a little bit. In terms of like, I mean, I don't know what that means either. It's like when you get the free like $50 when you go to the casino for the first time, and they're like, yeah, hey, you got to play $50 on the slots. And if you lose it, you lose it. And if you win, you get to keep it. So if the Niners lose, I mean, I guess in the strictest sense of the term, yeah. But if they go out, it depends on how they look. Like if they lose, let's say it's just a replay of 3 where Garoppolo's not very good early, but he kind of figures it out late, and the Packers kick a field goal in the closing seconds, and that's what it is. Yeah, I think it's just kind of like, man, they played the number 1 seed really tough, and that's just kind of how football goes sometimes. But if they go out and lay an egg, then it's kind of like, whoa, what happened? Like they just snuck past the Rams, and then it was, oh, Dallas actually played a bad game, and if Dallas hadn't done this and that, the Niners would have lost a round earlier, and actually they shouldn't have been in the playoffs to begin with. I think that's where they could get in some trouble as far as the whole house money thing goes. But yeah, if they play well, I don't think it's a huge indictment on the 49ers if they lose by a field goal or a touchdown.
And see, that came from me, Kyle, because I looked at this even going into last week's game, right? Mm-hmm. Being a sports fan, I feel like a lot of the time, like you can't ask for championships all the time. Like that's unreasonable. You can ask for moments, though. You could ask for things that you'll always remember. And I almost felt, and I hate saying this because, I get competitive, and it kind of eats at me that I feel this way. But I almost felt like if they would have lost against Dallas, they gave me my moment. I'll never forget Week 18. Week 18 was essentially a playoff win. I'll never forget that. And that's kind of how I felt. Then they beat the Cowboys. That's another moment. If they went into Green Bay and lost anyway, I look at it, it's not going to be as if Green Bay lost to the Niners. And what I mean by that is Green Bay expects to win a Super Bowl this year.
Right.
It is 100% failure. They don't win the Super Bowl. The 49ers, maybe coming into the season, I thought that way, but as the season played out, it was like, this is a playoff team. Remember, we did our ceiling. Maybe they can get to the NFC Championship game, but it's really probably one win in the playoffs and move on. Mm-hmm. that's where the house money thing comes from. Do you understand that perspective as a 49er fan?
Yeah, totally. But I think there's large percentage that's how it kind of plays out. Like we walk away from it going, man, you know what? They won 7 of their last 9 and they had a must-win game where they played well against LA. And then they went into Dallas and shut down the highest scoring offense in the league and then lost to the number 1 seed. Like that happens. I think that's how we wind up walking away from it. But again, if they go out and they stink, it becomes, oh man, they just weren't on that level. We need to reassess how we kind of view the second half of the year, but they've been good for longer than they were bad this year. You know, they struggled out of the gate. They were 3-5, but since then they've been really good. And it's not like, oh, they just got hot at the right time. Like, no, they turned into the team we thought they would be, which is why I think they can go in and win against Green Bay. Because I think if you're assessing the 49ers, you can't look at the first, was it 9 weeks? You can't look at the first 9 weeks and go, well, they were 3-5 because they're 8-2 since then. And they're playing well and they've found an identity and they execute that identity at a really high level and it makes them really hard to beat, especially in the modern NFL.
Yeah.
So I think that's why this season, and when it comes to house money, I think that's why if you're calling it house money, I think you're correct because they've found the identity. They know what they are and they made it to the divisional round of the playoffs. You start to play good teams and sometimes you lose. Like it's not going to be a total failure if they don't get past this point.
None of this matters, but 8-2 and the 2 losses are a combined 10 points.
Yeah. They're playing as well as any team in the league right now.
Yeah.
I mean, and there's something to be said for that. Like we've seen teams, we talk about get hot at the right time. Like that bye week is certainly important in the NFL, but there are teams in the past, New York and Pittsburgh always come to mind where you get hot at the right time. You can make that run. It feels like San Francisco right now is the hot team. With that said, as I look at this list, is Jimmy the worst quarterback left in the playoffs?
Oh my God, by a lot.
Oh,
I don't know. That's too much. Hang on. Okay, you're right. It's
really Jimmy or Tannehill, right?
And someone might argue Stafford, but
I argue Stafford.
Oh, Stafford.
Okay.
But even if
saying it, but I said I like Jimmy.
So I think it's Rodgers, Brady, Allen, Mahomes, Burrow in like tier 1. And then to me, there's a tier 2 where like Matt Stafford hangs out. And then there's a tier 3, and that's Tannehill and Garoppolo.
Matt Stafford all by himself.
He's in the halfway house. That's what he is. He's like, sometimes he hangs out in tier 1 and other times he hangs out in tier 3. He really rides that fence.
Should I be happy that I'm not in tier 3 or mad that I'm not up there in tier 1?
No,
every once in a while he drops down to tier 4 or 5 and just hangs out down there for a little bit.
But seriously, like against the Niners in week 18, it was like, man, this guy, like, I guess like you see some throws, but he makes some really questionable decisions. He hangs onto the ball too long. He randomly limps around and does that. But then you look at how he looked against Arizona and it was like, man, he was careful with the ball. The stats weren't enormous, but he executed the game plan perfectly and just kind of diced up Arizona. Yeah. So I think that's partially because Cliff Kingsbury stinks, but no, I think Garoppolo's in that third tier for sure. Because if you swap out any other quarterback for Jimmy Garoppolo, except for Tannehill, I think the Niners are the favorites in the NFC, like by a lot. So, and that's why I think they can win, because they are super talented. Like they're a really, really good team. It's just they get knocked down a peg, I think, because of the limitations of their quarterback.
I went back and watched that week 3 game against the Packers, Colin. I'd like to know, I'm sure you watched it as well, what you think looking back at that game. Now, what I saw was I just saw a team that was trying to find their identity. Like they weren't themselves. They knew what they wanted to be, but they, for whatever reason, I don't know, lack of preseason games, I don't know. They were searching to get into that comfort zone. And to me, they look a lot different. And I guess I'm really talking offensively, but they look a lot different than they do today on January 21st.
They've scrapped the Trey Lance idea, which I think was holding them back a little bit offensively. That was Emmanuel Mosley's first game back. Josh Norman had to start. It was a pretty dramatically different team. Elijah Mitchell wasn't playing. Deebo Samuel wasn't a running back yet. And it's so different now that I rewatched it, but I don't take a lot away from it because this version of the 49ers would kill that version of the 49ers. Like they would smoke them.
Mhm.
So I don't take a ton away from that. The game I actually watched was the Christmas Day game against Cleveland because Baker Mayfield was awful in that game. He threw 4 picks and Cleveland still had a shot to win it. They lost by 2.
They ran all over him.
They ran like crazy. Dearness Johnson, I think, had 58 yards on 4 carries, and Nick Chubb at $127. Like that's the game I watched, and it's like, man, the Niners can follow this blueprint. And they're running similar offenses with Kevin Stefanski, another Kubiak guy like Kyle Shanahan. So I think that's the game. If you're going to try and say like, hey, this is something I can learn something from, that's the one I watched.
Okay.
I know you're going to dive into that tape like ASAP.
I'm on it. Yeah, that's my plan for tonight. I'm on it.
Do that at the break.
Definitely.
I think. What's up? What
I was going to ask you a prediction for the weekend.
I think the Packers win because of Aaron Rodgers. If Aaron Rodgers was 20% worse, I would take the Niners. But the Niners are going to have their hiccups, and I think Aaron Rodgers is going to make less mistakes. Like the Packers are just way better coached than the Cowboys are.
Yeah.
Because Mike McCarthy is the worst head coach in the NFL. And the Packers aren't going to run into the same mistakes. They're not going to come out and look, I think, completely befuddled on both sides of the ball the way Dallas did. And I just don't think the Niners will be able to build up the type of lead that allows them to really settle into the type of game they want to play. And I think Green Bay pulls out a close one, like 27-23.
Niners are going to have to score points to beat Green Bay. Monte Hill was talking about that earlier, and I completely agree. 23 is not going to get it done. I think they're going to put up some points. I think they're going to put up points on that Packers defense. Now, are they going to make enough stops on Aaron Rodgers? I mean, it's debatable. I think the Niners are going to win, but I could understand Rodgers just being too much. But I think the 49ers offense is going to put up points in Green Bay.
Yeah, if they win, I'm not going to be like floored. It wouldn't. I just, like I said, when you try and go like pros and cons and what's going to go right, what's not, the Niners would need a lot of things to go right to put up 30 plus.
That's true.
I don't think, but to put up 30 plus, yeah, okay, I got you.
That would be clicking.
I mean,
just Jimmy's thumb and his shoulder, like I'm nervous, man. He looked really bad in the second half against Dallas.
But Elijah Mitchell looked really good. Debo looked really good.
Hey, can Jeff Wilson get a carry?
We talked about this the other day. Can he just wind it straight into the line, please?
Okay. Like, let me know he's around.
No love for Jeff Wilson. He cannot get.
Kyle wants to run 30 to 35 times. I can't find 2 for Jeff Wilson. Come on.
Not 2.
We just
had 5 injuries this year, and we're gonna run him 27 times in a playoff game. Brutal.
What was I know we just said it when Tristan, they ran the ball 38 times last
for
week.
$169. Yeah.
Man, that's impressive.
It's crazy how they do it too, because
I
it's so
feel like
exotic
they can pull it off.
And it's so exotic and different that you don't feel like they ran it 38 times.
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't. It doesn't fit because it's the handoffs to Debo. It's the weird play action stuff with Elijah Mitchell, and they're handing it to Debo actually. And I do think we're going to see some different wrinkles with Samuel. We saw him do some play action stuff with him this past week, and I think there's going to be more of it this week.
I can't wait.
Yeah,
I'm ready.
I'm really excited.
I think the most important thing you said though is like that's not Mike McCarthy and the Dallas Cowboys over there.
Yeah.
Most importantly, that's not Mike McCarthy over there. Like that 13-3, 13-3, 13-4. Those are Matt LaFleur's regular season records.
Good coach.
Just absurd. Absolutely absurd.
I'm interested to see what he looks like sans Aaron Rodgers.
He's going to be smiling all over the place.
Probably. I mean,
what's the 16-1?
What's greater, the burden of losing or the burden of Aaron Rodgers?
He's gonna be 1-11, just smile ear to ear.
Yeah, but the vibes are good.
Sometimes you just be vibing out. Kyle Madson, double duty this week, man. We appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Guys, anytime.